When police found Marissa Cole sitting on her kitchen floor at 3 a.m., she was humming a lullaby. Her hands were covered in blood. Behind her, four bodies lay still in the darkness. But what made the detectives freeze wasn't the bodies. It was the marriage certificate on the dining table, dated 3 years before Marissa's own wedding. The groom's name, Evan Cole. The bride, Lydia Burns, Marissa's sister. "They made me live someone else's life," Marissa whispered to the officer. "Even my children weren't supposed to be mine." What kind of betrayal turns a loving mother into a killer? What secret was so devastating that it destroyed an entire family in one night? This is a story about love, lies, and the moment trust becomes poison. Before we begin, if you believe truth deserves to be heard, no matter how dark, hit that like button. Drop a comment telling us what you think justice means when everyone you loved was a lie. And subscribe to the Witness Wall, because here, every voice matters. Every story is witnessed. Now, let me take you back to where it all began. The 911 call came at 2:47 a.m. on a Tuesday in late September. The dispatcher heard breathing first. Shallow, measured, calm. Then a woman's voice, barely above a whisper. "They're all gone." "Ma'am, who's gone?" "What's your emergency?" "My family. They're not breathing anymore." "Are you in danger? Is someone in the house with you?" A long pause. Then, "No. It's just me now. It's over." Officers arrived at 1247 Maple Ridge Drive within 9 minutes. The house sat at the end of a quiet cul-de-sac, the kind where neighbors knew each other's dogs by name. Porch lights glowed softly. A child's bicycle rested against the garage door. Nothing looked wrong. Nothing looked like death. Officer James Ridley approached the front door. It was unlocked. He pushed it open slowly, calling out, "Police! Anyone home?" The living room was pristine. A half-finished puzzle lay on the coffee table. Family photos lined the mantel, smiling faces frozen in better times. Then he saw her. Marissa Cole sat on the kitchen floor, legs crossed, back against the refrigerator. Her white nightgown was stained dark red. Her hair fell loose around her face. She stared straight ahead, humming softly, a children's song, something about stars and dreams. "Ma'am, are you hurt?" She didn't respond. Just kept humming. Ridley's partner moved past the kitchen into the dining room. His flashlight swept across the table, wine glasses, plates of untouched food, and 3 bodies slumped in their chairs. A man in his late 30s, head tilted back, eyes half open. A younger woman, face down on the table, one hand still clutching a napkin. An older woman, seated upright but motionless, her lips tinged blue. "We need paramedics. Multiple victims. Send backup." Ridley knelt beside Marissa. "Ma'am, can you tell me what happened here?" She finally looked at him. Her eyes were clear, focused, almost peaceful. "I ended it," she said softly. "They built a family out of lies. I just ended it." "Who are these people?" "My husband. My sister. My mother." She paused, then added, "The people I loved most." Ridley's stomach turned. "Are there others in the house?" Marissa's face twitched. Something broke behind her eyes. Upstairs. My babies are upstairs. Two officers rushed up the staircase. The hallway was decorated with children's artwork, crayon drawings of stick figure families holding hands. They found the first bedroom at the end of the hall. Inside, two small forms lay tucked beneath blankets. A girl, maybe 7 years old. A boy, no older than 5. Both still. Both silent. The officers stepped back, hands trembling. One of them turned away, pressing his fist against his mouth to keep from being sick. Downstairs, Marissa continued humming. By dawn, the house was swarming with investigators. Crime scene tape circled the property. Neighbors gathered on the sidewalk, whispering, crying, trying to understand how the family they'd waved to just days ago could now be gone. Marissa was led to a patrol car in handcuffs. She didn't resist. She didn't cry. She looked back at the house once, as if memorizing it, then climbed into the back seat without a word. In the weeks that followed, the question everyone asked was the same. What could drive a mother to kill her own children? What could turn a wife into a murderer? The answer, investigators would discover, was buried in a secret so cruel, it shattered everything Marissa believed about her life. But to understand what happened that night, we have to go back. Back to when Marissa Cole still believed in love. Back to when her family looked perfect. Back to the beginning. 3 months earlier, Marissa Cole's bakery smelled like cinnamon and butter every morning. The small shop sat on the corner of 5th and Hawthorne, with pale yellow walls and handwritten chalkboard menus. Locals loved it. Tourists stumbled in by accident and left with 3 boxes of pastries. Marissa had opened Sweet Crumbs 4 years ago, pouring every cent she'd saved into turning an old bookstore into her dream. It was hers. Something she built. Something she could be proud of. At 34, Marissa had the life people envied. A successful business. A beautiful home. 2 healthy children. A husband who kissed her goodbye every morning and called her, "my love," like he meant it. Evan Cole worked in commercial real estate, traveling between cities to close deals. He was gone 2, sometimes 3 weeks a month. Marissa had learned to manage. She had routines, rhythms. And she had help. Her younger sister, Lydia Burns, she'd kept their maiden name after what she called her disaster marriage years ago, had always been the quieter one. Where Marissa was bold and warm, Lydia was soft-spoken and careful. She lived alone in a small apartment downtown, working part-time as a photographer. But she spent most of her days at Marissa's house, helping with the kids, making dinner, folding laundry while Marissa closed the bakery. The 2 sisters were inseparable, just like they'd been as children. "I don't know what I'd do without you," Marissa told Lydia one evening as they watched the kids play in the backyard. Lydia smiled, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. "You'd be fine. You're stronger than you think. Still, you're always here when I need you." Lydia looked down at her hands. That's what family does. To everyone watching, they were the perfect example of sisterly love. Neighbors often commented on it. "You two are so close," they'd say. "It's rare these days." Marissa's mother, Helen Burns, visited every Sunday for dinner. She was a woman who believed in appearances, everything neat, everything polished. She'd raised her daughters to value family above all else. "Family is everything," Helen would say, usually while adjusting a picture frame or straightening a tablecloth. Without family, we're nothing. Marissa believed her. She'd built her entire life around that belief. On a warm Saturday afternoon in early June, Marissa threw a barbecue. Evan was home for the weekend. The kids ran through the sprinkler. Lydia flipped burgers while Marissa set the table. A neighbor snapped a photo of them, Evan with his arm around Marissa, Lydia laughing beside them, the children frozen mid-jump in the background. That photo would later appear in news articles. Reporters would call it haunting. A snapshot of happiness before the fall. But in that moment, Marissa felt nothing but gratitude. She had everything she'd ever wanted. A family that loved her. A sister who supported her. A husband who came home to her. She didn't know that two of the people in that photo had been lying to her for years. She didn't know that the marriage she believed in had never truly existed. She didn't know that the life she was living wasn't really hers. Not yet. Lydia Burns had always been the second choice. Growing up, Marissa was the one people noticed first. She was louder, brighter, more confident. Lydia learned early to stay in the background, to smile and nod while Marissa told stories, to accept that being the younger sister meant being the smaller star. Their mother didn't help. Marissa, show Lydia how to do it. Marissa, you're setting such a good example. Lydia, why can't you be more like your sister? Lydia never complained. She loved Marissa. But love and resentment can live in the same heart, feeding off each other quietly. When Lydia turned 23, she met someone. His name was Evan Cole. He was 26, ambitious, charming in a way that felt genuine. They met at a photography exhibit where Lydia was displaying her work. Evan stood in front of one of her photos, a black and white image of rain falling on an empty street, and said, "This feels lonely." But not in a sad way. In a way that makes you want to stay in it. Lydia fell for him in that moment. They dated for 6 months. Quiet dinners. Long drives. Conversations that stretched into the early morning. Evan talked about building something meaningful. Lydia talked about capturing truth through a lens. He proposed on a Tuesday evening in his apartment. No grand gesture. Just a simple question, "I think we could be good together. What do you think?" Lydia said yes. They got married at a courthouse 3 weeks later. No family. No announcement. Lydia wanted to tell Marissa, but Evan convinced her to wait. "Let's have our moment first," he said. "Just us. Before the world gets involved." Lydia agreed. She always agreed with him. But something shifted after the wedding. Evan became distant. He worked longer hours. He stopped asking about her photography. When Lydia suggested they finally tell her family, he'd say, "Soon. Just not yet." Months passed. Then a year. One evening, Evan came home and said he'd been invited to a work event. "My colleague's throwing a party. I need to go. It's important for my career." Lydia went with him. That's where she saw Marissa. Her sister stood near the bar, laughing at something someone said. She wore a red dress that Lydia had helped her pick out months ago. She looked radiant. And then Evan walked straight to her. Lydia watched as they talked. Watched as Marissa touched his arm. Watched as Evan leaned in, smiling in a way he hadn't smiled at Lydia in months. When Evan returned to Lydia's side, she asked, "Who was that?" "Oh, just someone from the office." He didn't mention her name. Didn't mention that he'd already started seeing her. 3 weeks later, Evan told Lydia he wanted a divorce. "It's not working," he said. "I think we both know that." Lydia was devastated. But she didn't fight him. She signed the papers quietly, keeping the marriage a secret just like he'd asked. No one needed to know about her failure. 2 months after that, Marissa called Lydia, breathless with excitement. "I met someone," Marissa said. "His name is Evan. I think he might be the one." Lydia's blood went cold. "Evan," she repeated. "Yes, Evan Cole. He's amazing, Lydia. I can't wait for you to meet him." Lydia wanted to scream. She wanted to tell Marissa the truth. But Evan had already moved on. Already chosen Marissa. And Lydia had signed papers that said the marriage never mattered. So she stayed quiet. She watched as Marissa fell in love with the man who'd left her. I watched as they got engaged. Watched as Marissa planned a wedding that Lydia had never gotten to have. And Lydia smiled through all of it, because that's what good sisters do. At Marissa's wedding, Lydia stood beside her as maid of honor. She watched Evan slip a ring onto Marissa's finger, the same finger he'd once promised to Lydia. No one knew. Not Marissa. Not their mother. Not even the guests who clinked glasses and cheered for the happy couple. Only Evan and Lydia knew the truth. And Evan made sure it stayed that way. In the years that followed, Lydia became a fixture in Marissa's life. She helped with the kids. She was always available. Always supportive. People thought it was love. But Lydia knew better. She stayed close because she couldn't let go. Because part of her still wanted Evan. Because watching him pretend she didn't exist was the only way she could stay connected to him. And Evan? He let her stay. He needed her silence. Needed her complicity. So Lydia lived in the margins of her sister's life, a ghost haunting her own story. Until the day Marissa found out. It started with small things. In late June, Marissa noticed Evan checking his phone more often. Not obviously, just more. A quick glance during dinner. A step away during conversations. A phone face down on the nightstand. When she asked about it, he'd say, "Just work. Nothing important." But work didn't explain the way he flinched when she reached for his phone. Work didn't explain why he showered immediately after coming home, or why he started locking the bathroom door. Marissa told herself she was being paranoid. Evan traveled constantly. He was under stress. That's all it was. But then Lydia started acting differently too. She'd always been attentive, but now she was watchful. She'd glance between Marissa and Evan during conversations, as if waiting for something to break. She'd linger in doorways, listening. One evening in July, Marissa walked into the kitchen and found Lydia standing by the window, staring out at nothing. "You okay?" Marissa asked. Lydia startled. "Yeah, just tired." "You've been helping out so much. You don't have to be here every day, you know." "I want to be here," Lydia said quickly. Too quickly. Marissa studied her sister. "Is something going on with you?" "No." "Why would you think that?" "I don't know. You seem distracted." Lydia forced a smile. "I'm fine." "Really?" But she wasn't fine. And Marissa could feel it. The real crack appeared on a Thursday night in mid-July. Evan was home between trips. The kids were asleep. Marissa and Evan sat on the couch, half watching a movie. His phone buzzed on the coffee table. Evan reached for it, but Marissa was closer. She picked it up, intending to hand it to him. The screen lit up with a text notification. "Lydia, I miss you too." Marissa froze. Evan snatched the phone from her hand. "Thanks," he said casually, locking the screen. "What was that?" Marissa asked. "What was what?" "That text. From Lydia." Evan didn't look at her. "Oh, she probably sent it to me by mistake. She was asking me about some repair work at her apartment. It said, 'I miss you too.' She misses talking to me about the apartment stuff. I've been traveling." Marissa wanted to believe him. Desperately wanted to believe him. But the words echoed in her mind all night. "I miss you too." Meaning Evan had said it first. The next morning, Marissa waited until Evan left for work. Then she opened his laptop, something she'd never done before. His password was easy, their anniversary. She felt guilty immediately. This was wrong. She was invading his privacy. But she couldn't stop. She opened his messages. Scrolled through texts with colleagues, friends and family. Nothing unusual. Then she saw Lydia's name. The thread was long. Months of messages. Most were mundane. Plans to pick up the kids. Grocery requests. Normal stuff. But scattered throughout were messages that didn't fit. "Evan, are you staying over tonight?" "Lydia, if that's okay." "Evan, it's always okay." Another one, from 2 weeks ago. "Lydia, do you ever regret it?" "Evan, regret what?" "Lydia, the way things turned out." "Evan, no." "Do you?" "Lydia, sometimes." Marissa's hands trembled. What did that mean? Regret what? She kept scrolling. Then she found one that stopped her cold. "Lydia, I hate that I have to pretend I don't know you the way I do." "Evan, I know. But it's better this way." Marissa felt something crack inside her chest. She closed the laptop. Sat in silence. Tried to breathe. There had to be an explanation. Maybe they were talking about the past. Maybe Lydia had a crush on Evan before he met Marissa, and they were just acknowledging it now. That had to be it. But that night, when Evan came home, Marissa couldn't hold it in. "I need to ask you something," she said. Evan looked up from his phone. "What's up? Are you and Lydia?" She couldn't finish the sentence. "Are we what? Are you too close? In a way I don't know about?" Evan's face shifted. Not guilt. Irritation. "What are you talking about?" "I saw some of your messages." "I don't know." "Intimate." "You went through my phone?" "Your laptop." "And I only did it because you don't trust me?" "No. Because something feels off." Evan stood, pacing. "Marissa, Lydia is your sister. She's family." "Of course we do." "She helps with the kids. She's here all the time. What do you want me to do? Ignore her?" "That's not what I'm saying." "Then what are you saying?" Marissa felt herself shrinking. Maybe she was wrong. Maybe she was seeing things that weren't there. I feel like something's changed." Evan softened, crossing to her. He took her hands. "Nothing's changed. I love you. Lydia loves you. We're all just trying to keep this family running while I'm traveling constantly. That's it." He kissed her forehead. "Don't do this, Marissa. Don't create problems where there aren't any." Marissa nodded. She wanted to believe him. But late that night, after Evan fell asleep, his phone buzzed on the nightstand. Marissa reached for it. Unlocked it with his fingerprint while he slept. Another message from Lydia. "Lydia, She's getting suspicious. Evan, I know. Be careful. Marissa's heart stopped. She put the phone down, lay in the dark, stared at the ceiling. They were hiding something. Both of them. And Marissa was going to find out what. For 3 days, Marissa moved through her life like a ghost. She smiled at customers. She packed the kids' lunches. She kissed Evan goodbye when he left for another business trip. But inside, she was unraveling. Every conversation felt like a performance. Every hug from Lydia felt like a betrayal waiting to be confirmed. Marissa stopped sleeping. She'd lie awake, replaying moments. The way Lydia looked at Evan. The way Evan's voice softened when he spoke to Lydia. Things she'd dismissed before now burned in her mind. On the 4th day, Evan left for a week-long trip to Chicago. Marissa waited until his car disappeared down the street. Then she went upstairs to their bedroom. She told herself she was looking for answers. Not snooping. Just trying to understand. She started with his dresser. Socks, belts, nothing unusual. His closet, suits, shoes, boxes of old electronics. Then she moved to his desk. Evan kept files here. Tax documents. Work contracts. Things Marissa never touched because finances were his responsibility. She opened the bottom drawer. Stacks of papers, rubber-banded together. She lifted them out, one by one. Old mortgage statements. Insurance policies. A folder labeled Estate Planning. Then, at the very bottom, tucked beneath a stack of outdated contracts, a sealed manila envelope. Marissa pulled it out. It was unmarked. No label. No writing. She hesitated. This was crossing a line. But she'd already crossed so many. She opened it. Inside was a single document. Cream-colored paper. Official looking. A seal at the top. Marriage certificate. State of Oregon. Marissa's eyes scanned the names. Groom, Evan Michael Cole. Bride, Lydia and Burns. Date, April 12, 2018. The paper slipped from her hands. April 12, 2018. Marissa and Evan were married in June of 2019. This certificate was dated more than a year before their wedding. Marissa picked the paper up again, hands shaking. She read it over and over, hoping the names would change. Hoping she was misreading. But the words stayed the same. Evan had married Lydia first. Her husband. Her sister. They'd been married before Marissa even met him. Marissa sat on the floor, the certificate in her lap. Her mind couldn't process it. Couldn't make sense of it. Why would Lydia marry Evan and never tell her? Why would Evan marry Marissa if he was already married to Lydia? Unless they divorced. Marissa scrambled back to the envelope. She dumped it out. No divorce papers. Just the certificate. She checked the drawer again. Searched the entire desk. The closet. Under the bed. No divorce paperwork. No annulment. Nothing. Which meant, legally, Evan was still married to Lydia. Which meant Marissa's marriage was. Marissa ran to the bathroom and vomited. When she finally stopped shaking, she sat on the bathroom floor, staring at the wall. 7 years. 7 years of marriage. 2 children. A home. A life. All built on a lie. Evan had never truly belonged to her. He'd belonged to Lydia first. And Lydia had said nothing. She'd watched Marissa marry her husband and smiled through it. She'd held Marissa's children and never once said, Those should have been mine. Marissa felt something snap inside her. Not sadness. Not anger. Something colder. She stood, washed her face, stared at herself in the mirror. The woman staring back looked like a stranger. Marissa picked up her phone, dialed Evan's number. He answered on the second ring. "Hey babe, is everything okay?" His voice sounded so normal, so easy. "I found something," Marissa said calmly. "What do you mean?" "A paper. In your desk." Silence. "Evan, what kind of paper?" "A marriage certificate. Yours. And Lydia's." The silence stretched so long, Marissa thought he'd hung up. Then, finally, "I can explain." "I'm sure you can," Marissa said. Her voice didn't sound like her own. "Come home. Tonight. We need to talk." "Marissa." "Tonight, Evan. Or I call the police and show them this document." She hung up before he could respond. Then she called Lydia. "Hey, sis," Lydia answered, her voice light. "What's up?" "Come over for dinner tomorrow night," Marissa said. "You, me, Evan and Mom. Family dinner." "Oh, I'm sure." "Is everything okay?" "Everything's fine," Marissa lied. "I just think it's time we all sat down together." "Okay. Sounds nice." "It will be," Marissa said. "I promise." She hung up, stood in the center of her bedroom, looked at the marriage certificate still lying on the floor. The man she loved had never truly been hers. The sister she trusted had betrayed her in the worst way possible. And tomorrow, Marissa was going to make them both confess. Marissa spent all day preparing. She cleaned the house, set the dining table with their best dishes, cooked Evan's favorite meal, pot roast with rosemary potatoes, baked a lemon cake from scratch. To anyone watching, she looked like a woman celebrating something. But the marriage certificate sat folded in her pocket like a loaded gun. Evan came home around 5. He looked exhausted, guilty. "Marissa," he started. She held up her hand. "Not yet. Wait until everyone's here." "But I need to explain." "You'll explain. In front of everyone." Evan's jaw tightened, but he nodded. Lydia arrived at 6, holding a bottle of wine. She kissed Marissa's cheek. "This smells amazing. What's the occasion?" "No occasion," Marissa said smoothly. "Just felt like bringing everyone together." Helen arrived last, fussing over her coat and adjusting her hair. "What a lovely idea, Marissa. We don't do this enough." They gathered around the table. Marissa served the food with steady hands, poured wine into everyone's glass, smiled at the right moments. Lydia laughed at something Helen said. Evan pushed his food around his plate, barely eating. "You're quiet tonight," Helen observed, looking at Evan. "Just tired," he muttered. "You work too hard," Helen said. "Marissa's lucky to have such a dedicated husband." Marissa's smile didn't falter. "I'm very lucky." She waited until dessert, until everyone was comfortable, until the conversation turned soft and easy. Then she reached into her pocket. "I want to show you all something," Marissa said. She placed the marriage certificate in the center of the table. The room went silent. Lydia's face was drained of color. Her wine glass slipped from her hand, shattering against the floor. Evan closed his eyes. Helen leaned forward, squinting at the paper. "What is this?" "It's a marriage certificate," Marissa said, her voice eerily calm. Dated April 2018. Between Evan Cole and Lydia Burns. Helen's mouth opened. No sound came out. Lydia stood abruptly, her chair scraping against the floor. Marissa, Sit down, Marissa said. Lydia sat. Marissa looked at Evan. Tell them what this means. Evan's hands trembled. He opened his mouth, closed it. Finally, Lydia and I were married. Before I met you. Before you officially met me, Marissa corrected. But you were already married to her when you started dating me, weren't you? Evan nodded. Helen gasped. Evan, what are you saying? I married Lydia, Evan said, his voice hollow. But it didn't work. We weren't compatible. So we separated. I was going to file for divorce. But then I met Marissa and you never filed, Marissa finished. You just moved on. Married me, had children with me, built a life with me, while you were still legally married to my sister. Lydia's shoulders shook. Tears streamed down her face. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Sorry. Marissa's voice cracked. You watched me marry your husband. You held my children. You ate dinner at my table for 7 years. And you never said a word. I didn't know what to do. Lydia sobbed. He chose you. He wanted you. I thought if I just stayed quiet, maybe it would be okay. Okay. Marissa laughed, a sharp, broken sound. You thought this would be okay? Helen finally found her voice. Girls, please. Let's not. Let's not what, Mom? Marissa turned to her mother. Let's not talk about the fact that my entire marriage is a lie? That my sister betrayed me? That my husband was never really mine? Helen's lips pressed into a thin line. She glanced at Lydia, at Evan, then back at Marissa. And in that glance, Marissa saw something that made her stomach drop. You knew, Marissa whispered. Helen didn't respond. Did you know? Helen's hands folded in her lap. It's complicated, Marissa. No. A long silence. Then, yes. The word landed like a blow. How long? Marissa asked. Since the beginning. Marissa felt the room tilt. What? Evan came to me after he met you, Helen said quietly. He told me about his marriage to Lydia. He asked for my advice. And what did you tell him? Helen looked down. I told him to do what was best for the family. And marrying me while he was still married to Lydia was best for the family? Lydia couldn't have children, Helen said, her voice flat. She tried. It didn't happen. Evan wanted a family. You could give him that. So yes, I told him to move forward. For the sake of the family's future. Marissa stared at her mother. So you used me. You all used me. We didn't use you, Helen insisted. We gave you a life. A husband. Children. Everything you wanted. Everything I wanted? Marissa's voice rose. I wanted the truth. I wanted a real marriage. Not some arrangement you all decided on behind my back. Lydia reached across the table. Marissa, please. Marissa jerked away. Don't touch me. Evan finally spoke. I love you, Marissa. I know this is awful, but I do love you. That was never a lie. Everything was a lie, Marissa said. She stood, trembling. My entire life was a lie. And all of you let me live it. You let me believe I was loved. That I mattered. You do matter, Helen said. No, Marissa whispered. I was just a replacement, a solution to a problem. She looked at each of them. Her husband, her sister, her mother, the people she'd trusted most in the world. And in that moment, something inside Marissa died. Get out, she said. Marissa, get out of my house. Lydia stood, crying. Helen gathered her purse. Evan hesitated. I'm not going anywhere, he said. This is my house too. Marissa laughed bitterly. Is it? Or was that a lie too? She turned and walked upstairs, locking the bedroom door behind her. Downstairs, she heard voices. Arguing. Crying. Then the front door opened and closed. Twice. Evan stayed. Marissa sat on the bedroom floor, staring at nothing. They'd made her entire life a performance. A role she was never meant to understand. And now that she knew the truth, there was no going back. She couldn't unknow it. Couldn't unfeel it. Everything she'd built was built on sand. And sand, Marissa thought, could bury you if you let it. Marissa didn't leave the bedroom for 3 days. Evan knocked. Brought food. Begged her to. She said nothing. The kids asked where Mommy was. Evan told them she wasn't feeling well. He called Lydia to help, but Marissa heard him on the phone. She won't even look at me. I don't know what to do. Good, Marissa thought. Let him panic. She sat in the dark, replaying every moment of her life. Her wedding day. Had Evan thought of Lydia when he said his vows? Had Lydia cried at home, alone, while Marissa danced in a white dress? The birth of her daughter. Had Lydia held the baby and thought, that should have been mine? Every family dinner. Every holiday. Every time Lydia said, I love you, sis. But all of it. Marissa's mind began to fracture. She stopped eating. Stopped showering. She stared at the walls and saw her life projected there like a horror film. Every smile now sinister, every kind word now poison. On the 4th day, Helen came. Marissa heard her voice downstairs, insistent. Let me talk to her. Helen knocked on the bedroom door. Marissa, sweetheart. Open the door. Marissa didn't move. I know you're angry, Helen continued. But you need to eat. You need to think about your children. They need their mother. Something about those words, your children, cut through the fog. Marissa unlocked the door. Helen stepped inside, her face tight with concern. She looked around the dark room, at Marissa's unwashed hair and hollow eyes. Oh, honey, Helen said softly. Don't, Marissa warned. Helen sat on the edge of the bed. You have every right to be upset. What we did, it wasn't fair to you. It wasn't fair? Marissa's laugh was raw. Mom, you handed me someone else's husband and told me it was love. I know. You watched me build a life on a foundation that didn't exist. I thought I was helping, Helen said. Lydia was suffering. She couldn't give Evan what he wanted. You were so lonely back then, Marissa. You wanted a family. I thought if I could give both my daughters what they needed. By lying to one of them? Helen's hands twisted in her lap. I thought the truth would hurt more than the secret. I thought if everyone just moved forward, it would be okay. How could it ever be okay? Because family forgives, Helen said firmly. That's what we do. We protect each other. We keep each other's secrets. We stay together no matter what. Marissa stared at her mother. Is that what you think this is? Protection? Yes. You didn't protect me. You erased me. You made me into a character in someone else's story. Helen's face hardened. Stop being dramatic. You have a beautiful home. 2 healthy children. A successful business. What more do you want? I want it to be real. Marissa shouted. I want to know that the people I love actually chose me, not because I was convenient or useful or fertile. Life isn't a fairy tale, Marissa. Sometimes love is complicated. Sometimes we make sacrifices for the greater good of the family. The greater good? Marissa felt something cold settle in her chest. Who decided what that was? Evan? Lydia? When did I get a say? You're being selfish. The word hung in the air like poison. I'm being selfish? Marissa whispered. I'm the one who's been lied to for 7 years, and I'm selfish for being upset? You're upset, I understand. But you need to think about your children. About this family. You can't just throw it all away because your feelings are hurt. My feelings are hurt? Marissa stood, her whole body shaking. Mom, they made me live a lie. Every moment of my marriage, every memory I have, it's all contaminated now. And you're telling me to just, what? Forgive and forget. Yes, Helen said simply. That's exactly what I'm telling you. For the sake of your children. For the sake of this family. Marissa looked at her mother, really looked at her. The woman who'd raised her. Who'd taught her that family was everything. And she realized Helen didn't see people. She saw roles. Functions. Pieces on a board to be moved around until the picture looked right. Get out, Marissa said quietly. Marissa! Get out of my house. All of you. I need to think. Helen stood, her expression cold. You're making a mistake. Family is all we have. Without it, you're nothing. She left without another word. Marissa stood alone in the bedroom, those words echoing. Without family, you're nothing. Is that what she was now? Nothing? She walked to the mirror, looked at herself, touched her face like she was trying to remember who she used to be. But the woman in the mirror was a stranger. Someone who'd been shaped and molded by other people's choices. Someone who'd never truly existed on her own terms. Downstairs, Evan was putting the kids to bed. She could hear him reading them a story, his voice gentle and familiar. Her children. The only real thing in her life. But even they were built on a lie. Conceived in a marriage that wasn't legitimate. Born to a mother who didn't know she was living someone else's life. Marissa sat down at the small desk in the corner of the room. Pulled out a journal she hadn't touched in years. She began to write. They made me live someone else's life. They looked at me every day and said nothing. They smiled and hugged me and let me believe I was real. But I was never real to them. I was a solution. A womb. A prop in their play. The words poured out, filling page after page. Anger. Betrayal. And slowly, beneath it all, something else emerged. A cold, crystalline clarity. If her family could lie to her so completely, so easily, what did that family even mean? If love could be this cruel, this calculated, was it even love at all? Marissa wrote until her hand cramped. Until the sun set and rose again. And when she finally closed the journal, something had shifted inside her. She wasn't broken anymore. She was decided. 2 weeks passed. Marissa emerged from her grief like someone surfacing from deep water. She smiled again, laughed with the kids, went back to work at the bakery. Evan watched her carefully, uncertain. "Are you okay?" he asked one morning. "I'm fine," Marissa said, kissing his cheek. "We'll figure this out." He looked relieved, hopeful. Lydia started visiting again, hesitant at first. "I don't want to intrude," she said. "You're not intruding," Marissa assured her. "Your family." Lydia's eyes filled with tears. "I thought you'd never forgive me." "I'm trying," Marissa said. And it sounded true. Helen called one afternoon. "I'm hosting a dinner this Saturday. A family dinner. I think it's time we all sat down properly and moved past this." "That sounds nice," Marissa agreed. Helen paused, surprised. "Really? Really? It's time we talked. All of us." "I'm glad you're seeing reason," Helen said, her voice softening. "Family is everything, Marissa. I knew you'd understand that eventually." Saturday arrived. Helen's house was immaculate as always. White tablecloths, fresh flowers, candles already lit. Marissa arrived with Evan and the kids. Lydia was already there, helping Helen set the table. They sat down to roasted chicken and vegetables. Helen poured wine, her face glowing with satisfaction. "This is how it should be," Helen said, raising her glass. "All of us together. United." They toasted. The kids colored in the living room while the adults talked. "I want to apologize," Evan said, looking at Marissa. "For everything. I should have been honest from the start." "We all should have," Lydia added quietly. Marissa nodded, listening. Helen dabbed her mouth with a napkin. "I'm glad we're moving forward. What happened was unfortunate, but it's in the past now." "Unfortunate," Marissa repeated. "Is that what we're calling it?" Helen's smile tightened. "It's what it was. A complication. But families survive complications. That's what makes us strong." "So no one did anything wrong?" Marissa asked calmly. "We all made choices," Helen said carefully. "Choices we thought were best at the time." "Best for who?" "For everyone." Marissa set down her fork. "Tell me something, Mom. When did you decide this was the plan? When did you decide that Lydia's marriage didn't matter and I should take her place?" Helen's expression hardened. "It wasn't like that." "Then what was it like?" A long silence. Finally, Helen sighed. "Lydia came to me after the wedding. She told me about her marriage to Evan. She was devastated that it wasn't working. She couldn't have children, Marissa. She tried everything. And Evan, he wanted a family. A real family." "So you offered me up as a substitute," Marissa said. "I suggested an alternative," Helen corrected. "Lydia agreed to step aside. Evan agreed to pursue you. Everyone agreed it was the best solution. Except me. I never agreed." "Because you didn't need to know," Helen said. "The less you knew, the happier you'd be. And you were happy, weren't you? For years, you were happy." Marissa felt her hands clench under the table. "I was happy living a lie." "Ignorance is bliss," Helen said simply. Lydia spoke up, her voice small. "I thought it would be easier if you didn't know. I thought I could just love you both from a distance. Be part of your life without causing problems." "And Evan?" Marissa looked at her husband. "What did you think?" Evan stared at his plate. "I thought I could make it work." I cared about Lydia, but I fell in love with you. I thought if we just didn't talk about it, eventually it wouldn't matter anymore. It always mattered, Marissa said quietly. I know that now, Evan said. Helen leaned forward. The point is we're family. We protect each other. Sometimes that means keeping secrets. Sometimes that means making sacrifices. But we do it because we love each other. You did this because you loved me? Marissa asked. Yes, Helen said firmly. Everything I've ever done has been for my daughters. To give you both the best lives possible. Even if it meant destroying one of them? You weren't destroyed, Helen snapped. You were given a gift. A husband. Children. A life many women would envy. You should be grateful. The word, grateful, landed like a slap. Marissa stood slowly. Grateful, she repeated. You want me to be grateful that you all conspired to build my life on a lie. Marissa, sit down, Helen commanded. No. Marissa's voice was ice. I think I finally understand what this family is. What you all are. What's that supposed to mean? Helen demanded. It means you're not a family. You're a pact. A conspiracy. You decide what's true and what's not. You decide who matters and who doesn't. And anyone who doesn't play along gets erased. That's not. That's exactly what it is. Marissa's voice cracked. You erased Lydia's marriage. You erased my right to choose. You erased the truth and replaced it with whatever story made you comfortable. We did what we had to do, Helen said coldly. For the good of this family. For the image of this family, Marissa corrected. You didn't care about us. You cared about how we looked. About keeping everything neat and perfect on the surface, no matter how rotten it was underneath. Helen stood, her face flushed. How dare you? How dare you? Marissa shot back. You're my mother. You were supposed to protect me. Instead, you fed me to the wolves and called it love. I gave you everything. Helen shouted. You gave me nothing. Marissa shouted back. Everything I have is borrowed. Stolen. Built on someone else's wreckage. The room fell silent. The kids had stopped coloring, scared by the yelling. Lydia was crying quietly. Evan looked like he wanted to disappear. Helen's voice dropped, dangerous and low. If you can't accept what we did, then you don't belong in this family. Marissa laughed, a hollow, broken sound. I never did. She turned and walked toward the door. Where are you going? Evan called after her. Home, Marissa said without looking back. To think. She drove home in silence, her mind spinning. For the good of the family. That's what Helen had said. What they all believed. But whose good? Not Marissa's. Not the truth. Just the good of the image. The appearance. The lie they all agreed to live. Marissa pulled into her driveway and sat in the car for a long time, staring at her house. This house. This life. Built on bones. And suddenly she knew what she had to do. If they could sacrifice her for the family, then she could sacrifice them for the truth. Balance, she thought. That's all it was. Balance. Marissa returned to normal the next day. Not the shattered, grieving version of normal. Not the angry, accusatory version. She returned to the version of herself from before she knew. Smiling. Efficient. She took the kids to school. Opened the bakery. Chatted with customers about the weather and weekend plans. You seem better, one regular said. I am, Marissa replied. And she meant it. Evan noticed the change too. You're really okay? He asked cautiously. I've been thinking, Marissa said. About what Mom said. About family. About moving forward. And maybe she's right. Maybe holding on to anger doesn't help anyone. Evan's relief was visible. I'm so glad you're saying that. I've been so worried. I just need time, Marissa interrupted, to process everything. But I think we can get through this. She even called Lydia. I'm sorry I yelled at you. No, I deserved it, Lydia said, her voice thick with emotion. We all made mistakes, Marissa said gently. I'm trying to let go of mine. Thank you, Lydia whispered. Thank you for giving me another chance. To everyone watching, Marissa Cole was healing, forgiving, becoming herself again. But at night, alone in her room, Marissa wrote. She filled her journal with meticulous entries. Not emotional outbursts anymore. Plans. Saturday, August 10th. Dinner at our house. Invite everyone. Make it feel like reconciliation. Menu, pot roast, mashed potatoes, green beans, lemon cake. Their favorites. Wine, red. Full-bodied. Strong flavor to mask. She researched poisons. Carefully. Using library computers, not her own devices. She learned about substances that acted slowly, painlessly. Things that could be mixed into food without detection. She wasn't angry anymore. Anger was messy, uncontrolled. This was clarity, purpose. They had taken her life and made it a performance. So she would write the final act. She thought about her children, Emma and Noah, 7 and 5. Innocent, pure. They were hers. The only thing in her life that was truly, completely hers. And she couldn't leave them in this world. Not in this family. Not to be raised by liars. Not to grow up and learn that their mother was just a replacement. A convenience. She loved them too much for that. When Marissa closed her journal each night, she felt calm. Resolved. She wasn't a monster. She was a mother, a wife, a sister, a daughter, who'd been betrayed by all of them. And betrayal, Marissa had learned, demanded an answer. 3 weeks passed. Marissa prepared everything. She invited the family over. I want to do this right, she told Evan. A proper family dinner. All of us together. To really move forward. Evan kissed her. I love you. I know, Marissa said. She told Lydia the same thing. Let's put this behind us. Lydia hugged her. I love you, sis. I love you too, Marissa said. And she did. That was the cruelest part. She still loved them. But love and murder, Marissa was learning, weren't opposites. Sometimes they were the same thing. Saturday, September 14th. The house smelled like rosemary and garlic. Candles flickered on the dining table. Soft music played from the speakers. Everything looked perfect. Marissa had spent all day cooking. Pot roast, slow-cooked for hours. Mashed potatoes whipped smooth with butter and cream. Green beans sautéed with almonds. And for dessert, her famous lemon cake, 3 layers, frosted with cream cheese icing. Evan came downstairs at 5, freshly showered. This looks incredible. I wanted it to be special, Marissa said, adjusting a fork on the table. It is. Thank you for doing this. The kids ran around the living room, excited. "When's Aunt Lydia coming?" Emma asked. "Soon," Marissa said, smoothing her daughter's hair. "Go wash your hands." Lydia arrived at 6, carrying flowers. "These are for you." "They're beautiful," Marissa said, putting them in a vase. "Thank you." Helen arrived last, dressed in her usual understated elegance. "This was a lovely idea, Marissa." "I'm glad you could come," Marissa said. They sat down at 7. The table was full, 3 adults, 2 children, plates piled with food. Helen raised her wine glass. "To family, to forgiveness, to moving forward." They clinked glasses. Drank. The wine was good. Marissa had chosen it carefully, a bold Cabernet with notes of dark cherry and oak. Strong enough to hide anything bitter. Not that anyone would notice. They were too relieved, too happy that Marissa had come around. "This roast is delicious," Evan said. "Glad you like it," Marissa replied, watching him eat. Lydia laughed at something Helen said. The kids asked for seconds. Everything felt warm. Normal. Marissa barely touched her food. She watched them eat, watched them drink, watched them laugh. "This is love," she thought. This is what they called love. 20 minutes passed. Then 30. Evan's fork clattered against his plate. "I don't feel well." Marissa looked up. "What's wrong?" "I don't know. Dizzy." His hand went to his throat. "My chest." He tried to stand. His legs gave out. He collapsed back into the chair, gasping. Lydia turned to him, concerned. "Evan." Then her face paled. I feel." Her words slurred. She reached for the table, missed, and slumped forward, her head hitting the wood with a dull thud. Helen's wine glass slipped from her hand, shattering on the floor. She looked at Marissa, eyes wide with dawning understanding. "What did you do?" Helen whispered. Marissa said nothing. Helen tried to stand, but her legs wouldn't cooperate. She fell back into her chair, gasping for air. The children. Emma and Noah were staring, confused and frightened. "Mommy." Emma's voice was small. Marissa stood calmly. "It's okay, sweetheart. Come here." Emma came to her. So did Noah. Behind them, Evan was slumped over the table, barely conscious. Lydia had stopped moving. Helen was clutching her chest, fighting for each breath. "Mommy, what's wrong with Daddy?" Noah asked. "He's just tired," Marissa said softly. She took their hands. "Let's go upstairs. It's bedtime." "But it's early," Emma protested. "I know, but I want to read you a story." She led them upstairs, away from the dying sounds below, away from the bodies that would soon be still. In their bedroom, she tucked them both into bed, pulled the blankets up to their chins. "I love you both so much," Marissa whispered. "More than anything in the world." "We love you too, Mommy," Emma said, yawning. "I know you do," Marissa said. "And I need you to know that everything I've ever done has been to protect you, to keep you safe." "We're always safe with you," Noah said sleepily. Marissa's eyes filled with tears. "I'm so sorry." "For what?" Emma asked. "For this," Marissa whispered. She took a pillow. Her hands shook. Emma's eyes fluttered closed, exhausted from the day. Noah was already asleep. Marissa stood over them, the pillow in her hands, tears streaming down her face. I love you too much to leave you in this world, she thought. Too much to let them raise you. Too much to let you become like them. She pressed the pillow over Emma's face. Gently, softly, like a kiss. Emma stirred, struggled weakly, then went still. Marissa sobbed, pulling the pillow away. Emma's face was peaceful, like she was dreaming. She moved to Noah's bed, did the same, whispered apologies between her tears. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I love you. I love you so much. When it was done, Marissa kissed them both on the forehead, straightened their blankets, made sure they looked comfortable. Then she went downstairs. The dining room was silent now. Evan was slumped in his chair, still. Lydia's eyes were half open, staring at nothing. Helen had fallen to the floor, one hand still reaching toward the door. Marissa walked past them to the kitchen, washed her hands, cleaned the dishes, wiped down the counters. Then she sat on the kitchen floor, her back against the refrigerator. She looked at the dining room, at the bodies of the people she'd loved most in the world. And she began to hum. A lullaby. The same one she'd just sung to her children. The clock on the wall ticked. Midnight came and went. Outside, the world continued. Cars passed. Dogs barked. Life went on. But in the house at 1247 Maple Ridge Drive, everything had stopped. Marissa sat in the silence, humming softly, until she finally picked up her phone. She dialed 911. The operator answered. 911, what's your emergency? It's over now, Marissa said quietly. Ma'am, what's over? Everything. 3 hours earlier. Before the dinner. Before the poison. Before the moment Marissa crossed the line from victim to killer, she stood in her children's bedroom, watching them play. Emma was building a tower with blocks. Noah was coloring a picture of their family, stick figures holding hands, a yellow sun in the corner. Is this good, Mommy? Noah asked, holding up his drawing. Marissa knelt beside him. It's perfect. It's all of us, Noah explained proudly. You, me, Emma, Daddy, Aunt Lydia, and Grandma. Marissa's chest tightened. It's beautiful, sweetheart. Emma knocked over her tower and laughed. I'm gonna build it even bigger. You can do anything you set your mind to, Marissa told her. Emma smiled. Because I'm strong like you. Strong like you. Marissa had to look away. Was this strength? What she was about to do? Or was it weakness? The final surrender to pain? She thought about letting them live. About walking away from Evan, from Lydia, from Helen. Starting over somewhere new with Emma and Noah. But where would they go? How would they survive? And more importantly, what would she tell them when they grew old enough to ask questions? Why don't we see Daddy anymore? Why doesn't Aunt Lydia visit? What happened to Grandma? Would she lie to them the way her family lied to her? Or would she tell them the truth, that their entire existence was born from betrayal? Either way, they would be damaged. Either way, the poison would reach them. Better to spare them that, Marissa thought. Better to let them go while they still believed the world was good. While they still thought love meant safety. Mommy, are you crying? Emma asked. Marissa wiped her eyes. Just happy tears. Because I love you both so much. We love you too, Emma said, hugging her. Noah joined the hug. Forever and ever. Forever and ever, Marissa repeated, holding them tight. Not forever, she thought. but the most merciful version of it. After the 911 call, the operator kept Marissa on the line until the officers arrived. "Can you tell me what happened?" the operator asked. "I poisoned them," Marissa said calmly. "The wine, the food. I put it in everything." "Who did you poison, ma'am?" "My husband, my sister, my mother." "Are they breathing?" "No." "And where are you right now?" "In my kitchen, sitting on the floor." "Are there any weapons in the house?" "No. Just me." "Are there any other people in the house?" Marissa paused. "My children. Upstairs. They're sleeping." "How old are your children?" 7 and 5. "Emma and Noah." "Are they okay?" Another pause. Longer this time. "They're at peace," Marissa said softly. The operator's voice tightened. "Ma'am, I need you to go check on your children." "I don't need to check. I know." "What do you mean, you know?" "I tucked them in. I made sure they were comfortable. They're not scared anymore." The operator realized what she was hearing. "Ma'am, did you hurt your children?" "I protected them," Marissa corrected. "From this family. From this life. Officers are 2 minutes away. Stay where you are." "I'm not going anywhere," Marissa said. "I'm waiting for them." When the police arrived, they found Marissa exactly where she said she'd be. Sitting on the kitchen floor. Humming. Officer Ridley approached carefully. "Ma'am, I need you to stand up slowly." Marissa stopped humming. Looked at him. "Are you going to take me away now?" "Yes. We need to get you out of the house." "That's good," Marissa said. "I don't want to be here anymore." She stood without resistance. Let them handcuff her. Let them lead her outside. As they walked past the dining room, Marissa glanced at the bodies one last time. Evan, slumped in his chair. The man she thought she'd married. Lydia, face down on the table. The sister she thought she knew. Helen, crumpled on the floor. The mother who'd taught her that family was everything. They'd given her a life built on lies. So she'd given them an ending built on truth. On the porch, Marissa looked up at the sky. Stars blinked through the darkness. She thought about Emma and Noah upstairs. Thought about their peaceful faces. Their last moments of innocence. And she whispered to the night, "I'm sorry. But I loved you too much to let you stay." The interrogation room was cold. White walls. Metal table. A mirror that Marissa knew people watched from. Detective Sarah Brennan sat across from her. Mid-40s. Tired eyes. The kind of detective who'd seen too much. "Do you understand why you're here, Marissa?" "Yes." "Can you tell me what happened tonight?" Marissa folded her hands on the table. "I killed my family." Brennan didn't flinch. "Why?" "Because they lied to me." "About what?" Marissa explained everything. The marriage certificate. The conspiracy. The way her entire life had been arranged without her knowledge. Brennan listened, taking notes. When Marissa finished, Brennan leaned back in her chair. "That must have been devastating to learn." "It was. But killing them, that wasn't the answer." Marissa tilted her head. "Wasn't it?" "What do you mean?" "They killed me first," Marissa said simply. "They killed the person I thought I was. The life I thought I had. They murdered the truth and buried it where I'd never find it. So I killed them back. That's not how the law works." "I know." "And your children," Brennan said, her voice hardening. They didn't lie to you. They didn't hurt you. Why kill them? Marissa's face cracked for the first time. Tears welled in her eyes. I loved them, she whispered, more than anything. Then why? Because I couldn't leave them here, in this family, with these lies. I couldn't let them grow up and become like them. Couldn't let them learn to lie the way I was lied to. Couldn't let this poison touch them. So you killed them? I set them free, Marissa corrected. They'll never have to hurt the way I hurt. They'll never have to feel betrayed. They'll never have to wonder if the people who love them are telling the truth. They're safe now. Finally safe. Brennan stared at her. You're talking about your children like they're better off dead. They are, Marissa said with absolute certainty. In this world? With this family? Death is mercy. That's not your choice to make. I'm their mother. Everything about them was my choice. I gave them life. I gave them love. And when love wasn't enough to protect them anymore, I gave them peace. Brennan closed her notebook. You're going to prison for a very long time. I know, Marissa said. And I'm okay with that. How can you be okay with that? Marissa looked directly at her. Because I'm finally telling the truth. For the first time in years, I'm not pretending. Not performing. Not living someone else's story. This, what I did, is the only real thing I've ever done. Brennan stood. We're done here. But before she could leave, Marissa spoke again. Do you have children, detective? Brennan paused. Yes. Then you understand, Marissa said softly. You'd do anything to protect them. Anything at all. Not that, Brennan said firmly. No, Marissa agreed. Not yet. But if you'd lived my life, if you'd learned what I learned, maybe you would have. Brennan left without responding. Marissa sat alone in the interrogation room, staring at her reflection in the mirror. She didn't look like a monster. She didn't feel like one either. She felt like a mother who'd made an impossible choice. And whether the world understood it or not didn't matter anymore. She'd ended it. The lies. The pretending. The life that was never truly hers. It was over. Finally, it was over. 6 months later, the trial began. The courtroom was packed. Reporters lined the back rows, cameras waiting outside for any glimpse of the woman they dubbed the family killer. Marissa sat at the defense table in an orange jumpsuit. Her hair was shorter now, her face thinner, but her eyes were the same, clear, calm, distant. Her lawyer, Marcus Webb, was a public defender stretched too thin. He'd tried to build an insanity defense, but Marissa had been deemed competent to stand trial. The prosecution was led by District Attorney Nicole Park. Efficient. Determined to make an example of Marissa. In her opening statement, Park painted Marissa as calculated. A woman who'd spent weeks planning the murder of her entire family, including 2 innocent children. This wasn't a crime of passion, Park told the jury. This was premeditated, methodical. She researched poisons. She planned a dinner. She invited her family over under the guise of reconciliation, and then she killed them one by one. She is not a victim. She is a murderer. Webb's opening was softer. He talked about betrayal, about trauma, about a woman pushed to the breaking point by people she trusted most. Marissa Cole lived a lie for 7 years, Webb said. She believed she had a marriage, a family, a life. only to discover it was all built on deception. The psychological damage from that kind of betrayal cannot be understated. She didn't act out of malice. She acted out of unbearable pain. But even as he spoke, Webb knew it was a losing battle. The evidence was overwhelming. The prosecution presented the poison residue found in the wine bottles, the journal entries detailing Marissa's plans, the testimony of the medical examiner who'd confirmed that all 5 victims had been killed by the same substance. Neighbors testified about seeing Marissa in the weeks leading up to the murders. She seemed fine, they said. Normal. Happy even. That became a key point for the prosecution. Marissa hadn't acted like someone in crisis. She'd acted like someone in control. The defense tried to counter with expert witnesses. A psychologist testified about complex trauma and dissociation. A domestic violence counselor explained how betrayal within intimate relationships could cause catastrophic psychological breaks. But it wasn't enough. The most damaging moment came when the prosecution showed photos of Emma and Noah. School pictures. Smiling faces. Emma missing a front tooth. Noah holding a painting he'd made. The jury stared at those photos. Some looked away. One woman covered her mouth. Park let the silence hang. Then she spoke. These children trusted their mother. They loved her. And she killed them while they slept. There is no trauma, no betrayal, no psychological break that justifies this. When it was the defense's turn, Webb called Marissa to the stand. The courtroom went silent as she walked to the witness box. She raised her right hand and swore to tell the truth. Webb started gently. Marissa, can you tell the jury about your marriage? I thought it was real, Marissa said. I thought Evan loved me, that we'd chosen each other. And when you found out about his previous marriage to your sister? I felt like I'd been erased, like I'd never existed at all. What did you feel toward your family after learning the truth? Marissa paused. I still loved them. That's what made it so much worse. I loved people who'd betrayed me so completely that I couldn't trust my own memories anymore. And your children? Did you love them? For the first time, Marissa's composure cracked. Tears filled her eyes. I loved them more than my own life. Then why did you kill them? Marissa looked directly at the jury. Because I couldn't leave them behind. I couldn't let them grow up in a family built on lies. Couldn't let them be raised by people who thought deception was love. They deserved better than that. So you killed them? I freed them, Marissa whispered. From this. From all of this. Park stood for cross-examination. She didn't waste time. Ms. Cole, did your children ask you to kill them? No. Did they want to die? No. Did they show any signs of being unhappy or traumatized? No. They were happy. So you killed 2 happy children who loved you and trusted you because you decided they were better off dead? Marissa's jaw tightened. You don't understand. Help me understand, Park said. Explain to this jury how murdering sleeping children is an act of love. I couldn't protect them any other way. Protect them from what? A complicated family situation? Therapy exists, Ms. Cole. Divorce exists. Moving away exists. You had options. Those weren't real options. Why not? Because the damage was already done. They would have grown up knowing their whole life was a lie. They would have looked at every memory and wondered what was real. They would have questioned every person who claimed to love them. I couldn't do that to them. So you decided death was better? Yes. Park let that answer hang in the air. No further questions. Webb tried to rehabilitate Marissa on redirect, but the damage was done. The jury had seen her admit, in her own words, that she'd killed her children because she thought she knew better than they did about whether their lives were worth living. The prosecution's closing argument was devastating. Marissa Cole wants you to believe she's a victim, Park said, that she was driven to this by betrayal and trauma. But victimhood does not give anyone the right to become an executioner. She didn't kill in self-defense. She didn't kill in a moment of passion. She planned these murders for weeks. She researched methods. She prepared a meal. She invited her family into her home under false pretenses and murdered them. Park pointed at Marissa. And then, after killing 3 adults who'd wronged her, she went upstairs and smothered her own children. 2 innocent babies who'd done nothing but love her. She took their choice, their future, their lives. And she did it while humming a lullaby. Park's voice softened, but her words cut deeper. Ladies and gentlemen, there is no punishment severe enough for what she's done. But there is justice. Find her guilty. Let these 5 victims, especially Emma and Noah, know that their lives mattered, that their deaths will not be excused. Webb's closing focused on the psychological damage of betrayal. But even he seemed to know it wasn't enough. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. When they returned, the 4 women stood. On the count of murder in the first degree for the death of Evan Cole, how do you find? Guilty. For the death of Lydia Burns? Guilty. For the death of Helen Burns? Guilty. For the death of Emma Cole? The pause. The forewoman's voice wavered slightly. Guilty. For the death of Noah Cole? Guilty. Marissa didn't react. She just sat, staring straight ahead. Around the courtroom, people wept. Emma and Noah's former teachers. Neighbors who'd watched them grow. Strangers who'd followed the case and couldn't comprehend how a mother could do this. The judge scheduled sentencing for 2 weeks later. When the guards came to take Marissa away, she stood without resistance. But as she passed the prosecution's table, she stopped and looked at Park. You called them victims? Marissa said quietly. But I'm the only victim here. They're the ones who got to escape. Park's face hardened. Take her away. Marissa was led back to her cell, where she would wait for her sentence. And for the first time since that night, she allowed herself to think about Emma and Noah not as concepts or symbols, but as the children they'd been. The way Emma laughed when Marissa tickled her. The way Noah held her hand when they crossed the street. The way they'd both said, "I love you, Mommy," without knowing it would be the last time. Marissa curled up on the narrow bed and wept. Not for what she'd done, but for what she'd lost. The only real love she'd ever known. And she'd destroyed it with her own hands. The sentencing hearing was shorter than the trial. Marissa stood before Judge Patricia Morrison, hands folded, face blank. Morrison had presided over dozens of murder cases. But this one, she would later tell colleagues, had kept her awake at night. Ms. Cole, Morrison began, you have been found guilty of 5 counts of murder in the first degree. Before I impose sentence, do you have anything you wish to say? Webb nudged Marissa. They discussed this. An apology might help, even marginally. But Marissa shook her head. I have nothing to say to you, she told the judge. You weren't there. You don't know what it was like. Morrison's expression didn't change. Then I will proceed. She detailed each murder, each life taken, each choice Marissa had made. The cruelty of these crimes cannot be overstated, Morrison said. You murdered 3 adults who, while they may have wronged you, did not deserve death. But more egregiously, you murdered 2 children, your own children, who were blameless, who loved you, who trusted you to protect them. Marissa's hands clenched. You have shown no remorse, no understanding of the magnitude of what you've done. You sit here believing you were justified, that you were merciful. But mercy, Ms. Cole, is not something you get to define. It is not yours to dispense. Morrison looked down at her notes, then back at Marissa. I sentence you to life in prison without the possibility of parole. 5 consecutive life sentences, 1 for each victim. You will spend the rest of your natural life behind bars, with no chance of release. A murmur ran through the courtroom. Additionally, Morrison continued, I am recommending you be placed in psychiatric observation for the duration of your incarceration. Not because I believe you're insane, but because I believe you are a danger to yourself and others. Marissa finally spoke. Can I say something now? Morrison hesitated. Go ahead. Marissa turned to look at the gallery, at the reporters, at the faces of people who'd come to witness her sentencing. My mother told me that family was everything, that without family, you're nothing. She taught me that we protect each other, no matter what, that we keep each other's secrets, that we stay together. Her voice was steady, calm, almost peaceful. I did exactly what she taught me. I kept the family together. I made sure no one could tear us apart. I protected my children from a world that would have hurt them. I ended something that should never have existed in the first place. She looked at Morrison. You say I deserve this sentence. Maybe I do. But they deserved honesty. And no one gave them that except me. Morrison's face was stone. Take her away. As the guards approached, Marissa looked one last time at the gallery. Her eyes landed on a woman in the back row. Someone she recognized. Evan's mother. A woman Marissa had only met a few times. A woman who'd lost her son and grandchildren. The woman was crying silently, clutching a photo of Emma and Noah. For just a moment, Marissa felt something break inside her. A hairline fracture in the certainty she'd built around herself. Those children had been loved by others too. Not just her. Others who would have protected them. Who would have helped them navigate the truth. But Marissa had decided she was the only one who could save them. And in doing so, she destroyed them. The realization hit her like a physical blow. She'd become exactly what she hated. She'd taken choice away from the people she loved. She'd decided what was true and what mattered, just like her mother had done. She'd repeated the same sin, just with different victims. Marissa's legs weakened. The guards had to support her as they led her from the courtroom. The last thing she heard was Morrison's voice. This court stands adjourned. In prison, Marissa became a ghost. She moved through the days mechanically. Ate when told. Slept when the lights went out. Spoke to no one. Other inmates whispered about her. That's the one who killed her kids. Stay away from her. She's evil. But Marissa didn't care what they thought. She spent her days in her cell, staring at the wall. At night, she dreamed of Emma and Noah. In the dreams, They were always calling for her. Always just out of reach. Always asking, "Why, Mommy? Why did you do it?" And Marissa had no answer that made sense anymore. She'd thought she was protecting them. But maybe she'd just been protecting herself. From the pain of living in a broken world. From the fear of raising children in a family built on lies. Maybe she'd killed them not out of love, but out of cowardice. The thought haunted her more than any punishment could. 6 months into her sentence, Marissa requested paper and a pen. She began to write. Not a diary. Not a defense. Just truth. She wrote about her childhood. About Lydia. About falling in love with Evan. About the moment she found the marriage certificate. She wrote about the dinner. About carrying the poison to the table. About watching her family die. And she wrote about going upstairs. About kissing Emma and Noah. About the weight of the pillow in her hands. She wrote until her hand cramped. Until the pages piled up. And at the end she wrote a single question. If love is meant to protect, why does it kill so quietly? She sealed the pages in an envelope. Asked a guard to send them to a journalist who'd been covering her case. Why? The guard asked. Because someone should know the truth, Marissa said. The real truth. Not the version that makes sense. The version that doesn't. The guard took the envelope. Whether it would ever be sent, Marissa didn't know. But she'd said what needed to be said. She'd told her story. The whole ugly truth of it. And now all that was left was to live with what she'd done. For the rest of her life. 3 years later, Dr. Angela Reeves, a prison counselor, requested to meet with Marissa. Marissa agreed, mostly out of boredom. They sat across from each other in a small room. Dr. Reeves was young, earnest. The kind of person who still believed people could change. "I've been reading about your case," Dr. Reeves said. Marissa shrugged. "Everyone has. I wanted to hear your perspective. In your own words." "Why?" "Because I think there's something important here. About family. About trauma. About the lies we tell each other." Marissa studied her. "You think I have something to teach? I think you have something to say." So Marissa talked. For hours. About everything. When she finished, Dr. Reeves sat quietly for a long moment. "Do you regret it?" she finally asked. Marissa considered the question. "I regret that it had to happen. But I don't know if I regret doing it. Does that make sense?" "No," Dr. Reeves said honestly. "But I understand what you mean." "I was trying to end the pain," Marissa said. "For all of us. I thought death was kinder than living with lies. But maybe I was wrong. Maybe pain is part of being alive. Maybe we're supposed to carry it, not erase it." "Do you believe that now?" Marissa looked down at her hands. "I don't know what I believe anymore." Dr. Reeves pulled out a folder. "I want to show you something." She laid out newspaper clippings. Articles about families torn apart by secrets. Children who discovered their parents had lied to them. Marriages built on deception. "Your story has resonated," Dr. Reeves said. "People are talking about the cost of secrets. About the damage that lies do to families. You've started a conversation." "About murder?" Marissa asked bitterly. "About truth," Dr. Reeves corrected. "About the importance of honesty. About how betrayal from the people we trust most can destroy us." She pulled out one more document. A letter from a woman Marissa didn't know. "This woman wrote to you," Dr. Reeves said. She'd been living a similar lie. Her husband had a secret family. When she found out, she thought about killing him. But then she read about your case, about what happened to your children. And she chose differently. She chose therapy, divorce, distance, but not death. Dr. Reeves looked at Marissa. Your story saved her children, because she saw what happened to yours. Marissa's eyes filled with tears. Then something good came from it. Something, Dr. Reeves agreed. Not redemption, not forgiveness, but something. Marissa took the letter. Read it slowly. The woman's handwriting was shaky, emotional. Thank you for showing me where that path leads. I chose another one because of you. Marissa folded the letter carefully. Can I keep this? Yes. That night, Marissa lay in her cell, holding the letter. She thought about Emma and Noah, about the lives they could have lived. She'd taken that from them. No amount of conversation started, no amount of warnings given, would bring them back. But maybe their deaths could mean something. Maybe their story could keep other children safe. It wasn't enough. It would never be enough. But it was something. Marissa closed her eyes and, for the first time in years, she prayed. Not for forgiveness. She didn't deserve that. But for Emma and Noah. That wherever they were at peace. That they understood, somehow, that she'd loved them. Even if that love had been twisted and broken and wrong. Outside the prison, the world continued. The house at 1247 Maple Ridge Drive sat empty for 2 years before finally being sold. The new owners didn't know its history. They painted the walls, replaced the floors, tried to erase the past. But neighbors remembered. They'd cross to the other side of the street when passing by. They'd tell their children not to play in that yard. Some places, people said, held on to their darkness. The story of Marissa Cole became a cautionary tale. True crime podcasts dissected it. Documentaries were made. People debated on social media whether she was a monster or a victim. But those who knew her, the teachers who'd taught Emma, the customers who'd bought pastries from her bakery, the neighbors who'd waved to her, they remembered something else. They remembered a woman who'd seemed kind, normal, happy. And that scared them most of all. Because if Marissa Cole could do what she did, then anyone could. The lies we tell each other, they realized, are more dangerous than we'd ever imagined. And the people we trust most are the ones who can hurt us deepest. In the final document Marissa wrote, the one Dr. Reeves eventually published with permission, she ended with these words. I killed my family because I thought love meant protecting them from pain. But love isn't protection. It's presence. It's staying even when the truth is ugly. Even when the pain is unbearable. Even when everything you believed turns out to be a lie. I didn't stay. I didn't let my children face the truth and grow from it. I decided their lives weren't worth living because mine wasn't. That was my real crime. Not the poison. Not the planning. But the arrogance of thinking I knew better than life itself what my children needed. If you're reading this and you're hurting, if you've been betrayed, if the people you love have lied to you, I'm begging you, don't do what I did. Don't end the story because you don't like how it's going. Fight, grieve, rage, but stay. Because the moment you decide to end it, you become what you hate. You become the liar, the betrayer, the one who takes choice away. My children deserved better than me. Yours deserve better than this. If love is meant to protect, Why does it kill so quietly? Because we forget that protection isn't control. And love isn't ownership. And by the time we remember, it's too late. On a rainy October evening, 5 years after the murders, a woman visiting the prison stood outside, looking up at the barred windows. She held a bouquet of flowers. Daisies, Emma's favorite. And forget-me-nots, for Noah. She'd been their grandmother. Evan's mother. The woman who'd lost everything that night. She'd spent years hating Marissa. Wanting her to suffer. Wanting her dead. But time had softened the edges of her rage. Not into forgiveness. Never forgiveness. But into something like understanding. She'd learned, in the years since, about the lies her son had told. About the marriage he'd hidden. About the conspiracy he'd been part of. And while it didn't excuse what Marissa had done, nothing could, it explained it. Pain, she'd learned, didn't justify cruelty. But it did explain it. She placed the flowers against the prison fence. Whispered a prayer for Emma and Noah. For the grandmother they should have known. For the life they should have lived. And then, unexpectedly, she whispered a prayer for Marissa too. Not for her freedom. Not for her peace. But for her to carry the weight of what she'd done without breaking entirely. Because some people needed to suffer. Needed to remember. Needed to live with their sins as a warning to others. Marissa Cole was one of them. The grandmother walked away as rain began to fall. Steady. Silent. Unending. Inside the prison, Marissa sat in her cell, listening to the rain against the window. She thought about that night. About the dinner table. About the pillow in her hands. And she thought about a different choice. The one she didn't make. Walking away. Filing for divorce. Moving to another city. Starting over with Emma and Noah, just the three of them. It would have been hard. Painful. Messy. But they would have been alive. Emma would be 12 now. They'd be in school. Making friends. Growing up. Instead, they were frozen in time. 7 and 5. Forever. Marissa closed her eyes and whispered into the darkness. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I loved you wrong. I loved you to death. And I would give anything, to take it back. But the dead don't answer. And regret doesn't resurrect. All Marissa had left was time. Years and years of it. To sit with what she'd done. To carry Emma and Noah's absence like stones in her chest. And to hope, impossibly, irrationally, that somewhere, somehow, they knew she'd love them. Even if that love had killed them. If you've heard this story, you've witnessed something most people can't comprehend. A love so broken it became murder. A betrayal so deep it shattered a family completely. Marissa Cole's story isn't just about crime. It's about the secrets we keep, the lies we tell, and the moment when pain becomes something uncontrollable. It's a warning that honesty, no matter how painful, is always kinder than deception. That betrayal from those we trust most can break us in ways we never recover from. And that protecting someone doesn't mean deciding whether they should live or die. It means giving them the truth and trusting them to be strong enough to handle it. Emma and Noah Cole never got that chance. They were loved. They were murdered. And their story deserves to be remembered. Not to glorify what happened, but to prevent it from happening again. Here at the witness wall, we believe every voice matters. Every story deserves to be told. Every truth, no matter how dark, needs to be witnessed. You've witnessed Marissa's truth tonight. And in doing so, you've honored Emma, Noah, Evan, Lydia, and Helen. Their lives, their death, their story. If this story has moved you, if it's made you think about the secrets in your own life or the families you know, leave a comment. Tell us what you think, what you feel, whether betrayal can ever be forgiven, whether Marissa was a monster, a victim, or something in between. And if you believe truth deserves to be heard, no matter how painful, subscribe to the Witness Wall. Because here, we don't look away. We witness. We remember. We learn. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for witnessing. This is the Witness Wall. And you are not just a viewer. You are a witness to truth.
Thanks for tuning in to the Witness Wall. If you're new to this channel, kindly like and subscribe for more gripping true crime stories. Don't miss out. Subscribe now for more thrilling investigations.